Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, make sure you drop your thoughts and the lessons you took from this story in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. The late afternoon sun slanted through the picture windows of the Sterling estate in Buckhead, Atlanta, but it did little to warm the vast living room. Raina Camille Vance was on her knees on the flawless marble floor, carefully wiping away a faint smudge that only Gloria Sterling would have noticed. Her long hair was pulled into a tight bun, her worn work clothes clean but faded. In the middle of all that glass and crystal and polished stone, she looked more like hired help than Donovan Sterling's wife. A porcelain teacup crashed beside her hand. Shards exploded over the marble. One sharp piece sliced the back of her hand and left a bright line of blood. Raina froze, but she did not look up. "Raina," Gloria said from the designer sofa, her arms folded, her voice cool and precise. "What are you doing? You cannot even clean the floor properly. Or did you simply not notice I was having tea?" Raina pressed the cloth to her bleeding hand and gathered the shards with her other hand, careful not to let a drop of blood touch the stone. She stayed silent. "Useless," Gloria said. "Clean it again. And you will clean it until I decide it is clean." Raina rose without a word, fetched a dustpan and a fresh cloth, and returned to the floor. 3 years of marriage had taught her how far silence could stretch. She finished just as the roar of a sports car sounded outside. The front door opened, and Donovan Pierce Sterling walked in wearing an impeccably tailored suit, his expression carved in ice. He glanced across the room. His eyes passed straight over Raina on the floor, as if she were part of the furniture. "Donovan, son, you are home," Gloria said quickly, her voice changing to syrup. "Come, the cook made your favorite seafood gumbo." "I cannot stay for dinner, mother," Donovan replied, already crossing to the bar. He poured a generous measure of whiskey and swallowed it in one gulp. "Lyric needs me." Raina's hand paused on the cloth. Lyric Sorrell. Beautiful, polished, Donovan's executive assistant. The woman Gloria praised in front of everyone. Gloria gave Raina a sideways look. "You truly need to resolve that situation," she said loudly. "Our family cannot remain without an heir forever. Look at her." Gloria tilted her chin toward Raina. "She cannot even keep a pregnancy, and she can barely sign her own name. If it had not been for my father-in-law Elliot forcing you before he passed, we would never have brought this girl into our home." The word illiterate hung in the air like smoke. Donovan did not deny it. He only adjusted his cuff links and headed for the door. "I will be late," he said. "Do not wait up." The engine roared again, then faded into the distance, leaving Raina alone with Gloria's contempt. "Get out of my sight," Gloria said, now openly irritated. "Go up to your room. You make me nervous just standing there." Raina bowed her head and finished wiping the last trace of tea. She rose, took the service staircase, and climbed to the attic. The narrow room under the roof had no carpet, no art, only a hard twin bed and an old desk. 3 years, she thought, as she slid the bolt shut. 3 years of playing a role. The moment the latch clicked, her stooped shoulders straightened. The submissive expression fell from her face, as if it had been a mask. Raina knelt beside the bed, pulled out a slim metal briefcase, and placed it on the desk. She opened it with a code only she knew. Inside lay a customized security laptop, matte black, without any visible brand. When she powered it on, there was no familiar operating system, only an encrypted interface that greeted her iris scan, her password, a second password. Then the screen filled with charts and numbers, shimmering lines representing corporate debt, municipal bonds, stock indices across the United States. In minutes, her inbox refreshed. Subject: Raina, we need your analysis on the Federal Reserve bond schedule. Subject: Raina, your warning about the tech bubble saved us. Subject: Raina, how did you know the Midwest Teachers Pension Fund was about to pull out? To the clandestine financial world, she was not Raina Vance. She was Ariadna, a myth, a ghost who spoke in numbers and moved markets without ever showing her face. She opened a single photograph stored in a hidden folder. In it, a much younger Raina stood in front of a small house in Columbia, South Carolina, rainwater in the gutter behind her, and beside her, smiling gently, was Elliot Sterling. Years earlier, in a flash flood that had swallowed half her neighborhood, he had pulled her and her parents out with his own hands. On his hospital bed, his breath shallow, he had taken her hand again. "Raina," he had whispered, "my grandson is proud and blind. Give him 3 years. If he learns to see your worth, stand beside him and grow the Sterling Group together." If he betrays you, you owe him nothing. I left you a sword. Do not hesitate to use it. He had not told Donovan that the public trust holding 20% of the Sterling Group shares in Raina's name was only the first part of his plan. Raina left the photograph and opened a live chart of the Sterling Group. The stock was falling like a stone. Donovan's latest vanity project, a risky biotechnology venture out of Boston, was devouring cash. Lines of red numbers flashed on the screen. With a few precise short sell and buyback orders, she could stabilize the price in less than 15 minutes. Her fingers hovered above the keys. If he betrays you. The betrayal was not yet complete, she told herself. So she closed the trading window and turned instead to other commands. Exit the Midwest Manufacturing Index, she typed. Short the West Coast Tech Basket. Accumulate gold. Restructure the Detroit Municipal Bond portfolio. Her hands flew over the keys, the illusion of the illiterate country girl locked outside the room, where no one ever climbed the attic stairs. 2 days later, Donovan hurled a crystal ashtray at the wall of his corner office in Sterling Tower downtown. Useless, he shouted at the executives on the video call. I pay you enormous salaries and you cannot plug a simple cash hole. The Boston project is not getting another dollar from the banks. Where am I supposed to find the money? No one answered. The door opened. Lyric walked in, not in an assistant's suit but a fitted wine-colored dress, carrying coffee. She set her hands on his shoulders, kneading gently. Do not worry, she murmured. You still have the family. What are you talking about? Donovan asked. Elliot left her those shares, Lyric said lightly. 20%. Raina trusts you. She cannot read. If it is to save the company, perhaps your wife would sign a few documents for you. That evening, when Donovan came home, he did not walk past Raina in the kitchen. He actually stopped. Raina, he said, and his voice was almost soft. She straightened, startled. It was the first time he had spoken her name without contempt in 3 years. Yes, there is a charity gala at the St. Regis this weekend, Donovan said. Hope and Legacy, raising money for children. I want you to come with me. She shook her head quickly. I do not belong at things like that. I would embarrass you. You will do fine, he insisted. I want the world to see my wife's kind heart. There will be a large donation. I would like you to sign the papers for the Sterling family. He smiled, but there was calculation in his eyes. Raina lowered hers so he could not see her doubt. If that is what you want, she whispered. Inside, she felt the hook finally catch. The night of the gala, flashbulbs exploded outside the St. Regis Atlanta. Donovan stepped out of the Rolls-Royce in a tuxedo, then walked around the car and opened the door. Instead of Lyric, the woman who emerged was Raina in a simple cream dress, her hair in a low bun. She looked like a sparrow dropped among peacocks. Cameras flashed. Mr. Sterling, is this your wife? Reporters called. We usually see you with your executive assistant. Tonight my wife and I are here for the children, Donovan said smoothly, arm tightening around Raina's waist with a painful squeeze that told her to stay quiet. After a few photographs, he steered her not toward the ballroom, but to a private, very important person room. You must be tired, he said pleasantly. Rest here. I will greet the donors. Someone will bring the papers for you in a moment. Time passed in silence. Then the door opened and Donovan's lawyer, attorney Quentin Miles, entered with 2 security guards and a thick leather folder. He looked uneasy. Miss Vance, Donovan said you agreed to sign some documents. Raina stared at the folder. She did not need to read the cover to know it was no charity form. Donovan arrived a moment later, impatience already back in his eyes. Sign, he said, flipping to the last page and covering part of the title with his hand. Right here. Write Raina Vance on the line. Her gaze flicked to the heading he tried to hide. Stock transfer agreement. Donovan, she whispered, letting tears pool in her eyes. There are so many words. I do not know what they say. What if I sign in the wrong place? Enough, he snapped. He shot a glare at Attorney Miles when the man opened his mouth. It is routine. You are just putting your name. His voice turned coaxing. Come on, be good. Copy the letters I wrote for you. Raina took the fountain pen, her hand visibly shaking. She bent her head so that her hair hid the ice in her eyes and wrote very slowly, RANAVNC. On the last D she hesitated for a heartbeat, then added a tiny, deliberate extra stroke that broke the shape. To the naked eye, the signature was merely clumsy. Legally, it did not match her name. Donovan snatched up the folder and glanced at the crooked scrawl with a smile of pure triumph. Done. He snapped the folder shut and walked out with Attorney Miles, leaving Raina alone in the quiet room. She let the tears vanish, flexed the fingers that had signed away nothing, and touched the tiny camera hidden in the button of her dress. A red light winked once. The entire scene was recorded. Back at the estate, Donovan called Lyric on speaker the moment they stepped through the door. "It is done, baby," he said, throwing himself onto the sofa and loosening his tie. She signed. "All 20% are mine. Tomorrow I transfer them to you. You will be a major shareholder, and the banks will crawl back." Lyric laughed on the other end of the line, delighted. "I knew that country girl would fall for it. You are brilliant." Raina stood in the doorway, the hem of her dress damp from the drizzle outside, listening. "Donovan," she whispered, "you said it was for the children. You lied to me." He rose, walked toward her, and laughed in her face. "Do you really think an illiterate woman like you is making donations? That trust belongs to the Sterling family. I simply took back what was mine." He threw a folder at her chest. "Divorce papers. Sign with your thumbprint in the morning if you want. I do not care. You came here with nothing. You will leave with nothing." 10 minutes later, she was on the granite steps outside. The front door slammed behind her. November rain fell in cold sheets over Buckhead. Raina stayed on her knees for a moment, feeling the chill soak her dress. A wine-colored Maserati slid to a stop near the gate. Lyric stepped out in a fur-trimmed coat, her driver holding an umbrella. She walked over, looking down at Raina as if at something someone had dropped. "Oh, Raina," Lyric said, voice dripping with false sympathy. "How did it come to this?" "Donovan asked me to come say goodbye. After all, you took care of him for 3 years." She leaned close and dropped her voice. "Do you know what he called you tonight after you signed? Dead weight. He said he finally cut you loose." Raina's fingers clenched. Lyric's hand flashed. The slap sent her sprawling into a puddle. "You took my place for 3 years," Lyric hissed. "Now the house and that 20% are my wedding gift." The Maserati's tires sprayed muddy water across Raina as it rolled through the gates. When the car disappeared, Raina pushed herself up. The rain washed the last traces of cheap makeup from her face. She walked down the hill to an old public phone, stepped inside, and lifted the receiver. Without inserting coins, she dialed a long string of numbers that few people in the world knew existed. A man answered at once. "Miss Vance." "Malcolm," Raina said, her voice calm and cold. "Prepare everything." "Yes, ma'am," Malcolm Cole replied. "What is your order?" "Activate the Ariadne Protocol. Notify Continental Heritage Bank in Chicago, Golden Gate Securities in San Francisco, and Bayou Crescent Fund in New Orleans. Tell them the net is ready to close." She paused, watching the rain streak down the glass. The game has begun. 2 days later, Sterling Tower was swarmed by reporters. Inside the main auditorium, hundreds of shareholders filled the seats, murmuring angrily. The stock had been suspended. Rumors of bankruptcy flew from row to row. Donovan walked onto the stage, pale but trying to stand tall. "I know you are concerned," he began. "We have experienced temporary difficulties, but I have resolved the problem of the locked shares. I have acquired Raina Vance's 20%, and a new strategic investor, Ariadne Capital, will be here today to inject funds. As the largest shareholder, I will protect your interests." "Temporary?" the elderly board member Preston Hayes shouted. "You destroyed what Elliot built." The giant screen behind Donovan showed Sterling's chart diving toward the floor. The mood was close to mutiny when the heavy double doors at the back of the auditorium swung open with a crack. Light from the hallway flooded in, silhouetting a single figure. The sharp click of heels on marble echoed as she walked down the center aisle. She wore a pearl-white suit cut to perfection, her hair pulled into a smooth bun, her expression unreadable. Behind her walked Malcolm Cole and a line of men and women in dark suits carrying slim briefcases. The international creditors, directors and partners from the Chicago Bank, the San Francisco firm, the New Orleans Fund, rose instinctively as she passed. They bowed their heads slightly in greeting, the way one greeted a senior ally. The room fell silent. Donovan stared, his throat closing. "No," he whispered. "That is not possible." It was Raina, the woman he had called illiterate, the woman he had thrown out into the rain. "Security!" Donovan shouted, hysteria breaking through his smooth mask. "Who let her in? This is a shareholders' meeting, not a place for a farm girl to cause trouble. Get her out." No one moved. Even the guards hesitated as Raina stepped onto the stage, took the unused second microphone, and tapped it lightly. The sound rang through the room. "Donovan Sterling," she said, her voice clear and cool. "You are as ignorant and childish as ever." Gloria sprang to her feet in the front row. "How dare you speak to my son like that?" she screamed. One of the Chicago bankers, Thomas Coleman, leaned forward, eyes wide. "Madam," he said, breathless. "Are you Ariadna?" "I am," Raina replied simply. The word was like a spark in dry forest. The creditors understood immediately. Preston Hayes understood. Murmurs exploded. Donovan did not. He stared at Raina as if at a stranger. "You are all insane," he shouted. "She cannot even read. I have the contract." She signed the transfer. "There is no need to fetch it," Raina said. She nodded to Malcolm. He connected a drive to the projector. The screen flickered, then showed the very important person room at the St. Regis. Donovan, the folder, the pen, her hunched shoulders. The entire exchange played out. Her protests, his pressure, his command to his lawyer to keep quiet. The camera zoomed in on the signature. An attorney from Sullivan and Cromwell, Aisha Knox, stepped to the microphone. Under corporate law, a signature that is deliberately altered or obtained under coercion is void, she explained. The image zoomed even closer on the last letter of Vance. Here, the additional stroke makes the name legally incorrect. Combined with proof of fraud, the transfer of 20% of shares is invalid from the beginning. Donovan swayed. "Then she still has the 20%, he stammered, clinging to that fragment. "She is my wife. She has nothing else." Raina turned to Malcolm. "Tell them about the second trust," she said. Malcolm opened a black folder with the seal of a Delaware trust company. 3 years ago, Elliot Sterling created 2 trusts, he said. The public one you all know holds 20% in Miss Vance's name. The second was secret, held in Wilmington. It contains 30% of his personal shares, to be transferred if one specific condition were met. "And that condition," Raina said, looking Donovan in the eye, "was that you betray me." Photographs and clips filled the screen. Donovan and Lyric in restaurants, in the private apartment, the diamond necklace he had bought at a New York auction, the hidden camera footage of him throwing Raina out into the November rain. Attorney Knox lifted another document bearing a red seal. The trust company received this evidence the night Miss Vance was expelled from the house. At 1 this morning, they confirmed the transfer of 30% to her. Raina faced the audience. "I now hold 20% from the first trust and 30% from the second. 51% of the Sterling Group. I am the majority shareholder." Donovan's knees buckled. Security had to catch him before he hit the floor. Gloria's scream turned into a faint, and she slid from her chair, unnoticed in the commotion. When order returned, Raina raised her hand, and the room grew quiet. "As chairperson of the board and majority shareholder," she said, "I propose an immediate vote to remove Donovan Sterling from all positions, including Chief Executive Officer, for reckless management, fraudulent behavior, and attempts to misappropriate company assets." "I agree," Preston Hayes said at once, his hand rising. "We need a competent leader, not a spoiled child." One by one, hands went up. Even Donovan's former allies, desperate to save their investments, voted to let him go. Attorney Knox tallied the results. "Madam Chair," she said, "excluding your own shares, 98% vote to remove him." Raina turned to the man being held upright by guards. "Donovan Sterling," she said softly, "you are fired." That afternoon, she met the creditors in a conference room upstairs. Thomas Coleman from Chicago spoke first. "President Vance, we respect what you have done, but respect does not pay $50 million due tomorrow." "I am aware," Raina answered. "Malcolm." He projected a simple statement from the Chicago bank. 1 hour ago, he said, Ariadna Capital wired full payment of the outstanding debt on behalf of Sterling Group. Thomas checked his phone. His eyes widened. "The funds are here," he said slowly. "You used your personal capital. I said I would not let this company collapse over a debt I can crush with a single move," Raina replied. Then she outlined her plan. Shutting down the Boston project, selling off Donovan's vanity luxury division, focusing on next-generation semiconductor materials where Sterling had real strengths, and granting exclusivity contracts with better terms to her 3 largest institutional partners. By the end of the week, the stock surged back to life. Within a month, the company's value surpassed what it had been in Elliot's best year. The higher Raina rose, the further Donovan fell. His attempt to flee Atlanta ended under the wheels of a delivery truck on a dark, wet night not far from Sterling Tower. He woke in a crowded hospital ward, reached for his right leg, and found only bandages and emptiness. While he screamed, the small wall television showed Reina in a white suit on a business news broadcast, stepping into the newly renamed Ariadna Global Group office. The woman who turned disaster into dominance, the anchor called her. Donovan stared from the screen to his missing limb and understood for the first time what it meant to lose everything. Months later, he washed dishes in a narrow restaurant kitchen on the edge of Atlanta, surviving on a small wage and the charity of the owner. When he could no longer bear the thought of her success, he put on his cleanest thrift store shirt, took 2 buses, and limped to Sterling Tower. New guards stopped him at the door. "I need to see President Vance," he said. "Tell her Donovan Sterling is here." They almost laughed. "The president does not see walk-ins," one guard said. "Leave before we call the police." So Donovan did the only thing he could think of. He knelt on the cold stone outside the revolving doors, one knee and one heavy prosthesis, and stayed there as workers streamed past, whispering. He remained as afternoon turned to evening and the first drops of rain began to fall. On the 68th floor, Malcolm glanced at the security feed. "President Vance," he said. "He has been on his knees for 6 hours." "Is it raining yet?" Reina asked, still reading a contract. "Almost. Bring him to meeting room 3, she said. When Donovan shuffled in, shoulders sagging, she was seated at the far end of the table in a dark blue dress, every inch the chairperson he had never imagined she could be. He dropped to his knees again before he had even closed the door. "I was wrong," he sobbed. "I was arrogant and blind. I let Lyric poison me. I threw away everything. Reina, I love you. Give me another chance. We can start over. Grandfather would want." "Do not say Elliot's name," Reina cut in. Her voice was still, but his words died as if slapped from his mouth. "You love me. Is that why you called me illiterate in front of your staff? Is that why you tricked me into signing away what your grandfather left me? Is that why you pushed me into the rain with divorce papers in my hands?" He tried to move closer to her. "I was angry. I was jealous. I did not know who you were." "No," she said. "You did not care who I was." She walked around the table until she stood over him. "Do you know why I stayed 3 years in that attic? Do you think I needed your money? I honored Elliot's request. 3 years for you to prove you could see me. 3 years of insults. In the end, you did exactly what he feared. You betrayed his decision and his trust." She signaled to Malcolm, who placed a folder on the table. "I did not bring you here to listen to apologies," she said. "There is one last matter between us." Donovan opened the folder with shaking hands. Divorce documents prepared by the best legal minds in New York and Atlanta. "No," he whispered. "I will not sign. If I refuse, you stay my wife. You will always be tied to me. You cannot cut me off." Reina tilted her head. "You truly believe you have choices left," she said. "If you sign, I will not pursue you for the hospital debt, and I will not file a civil suit for emotional abuse. If you refuse, I will divorce you in court. I have the recordings. I have the witnesses. And I will ensure every debt is attached to your name. You will leave this building and go straight to a cell." The threat was not shouted. It was simply true. Donovan looked at her face and at Malcolm's calm expression and knew it. Slowly, as if moving through water, he reached for the pen. It took him several attempts to steady his hand enough to write Donovan Pierce Sterling in the space marked husband. When it was done, the pen slipped from his fingers. He pressed his forehead to the tabletop and wept. Not just for the company, not even for his lost leg, but for the life he had thrown away with his own hands. Reina picked up the papers, checked the signature, and felt a quiet finality settle in her chest. Without another word, she turned toward the door. "Escort our guest out," she said to Malcolm. She did not look back. 1 year later, snow dusted the peaks around Aspen, Colorado, as private jets lined the small airport. At the Global Economic Summit, chairs were set on a stage overlooking mountains and bright sky. Reina Vance sat at the center in an emerald dress, speaking calmly about artificial intelligence, quantum finance, and how patience combined with preparation could tip a market's fate. When she finished, the room of officials, scholars, and financiers rose in a standing ovation. Cameras flashed as she stepped onto a balcony. The air was thin and clean. She closed her eyes for a moment, thinking of a hospital room in Atlanta and an old man's rough, warm hand. "I did it, Elliot," she murmured to the mountains. "I kept my promise." That same evening, rain misted over a tired neighborhood in Atlanta. In a small restaurant with peeling paint, Donovan sat alone in the back, his dishwashing apron still damp, his prosthetic leg aching from a long shift. The owner had left a small bowl of soup for him on a chipped plate, half eaten by a distracted customer. Above the counter, a flickering 14-inch television was tuned to a financial news channel. And the star of this year's Global Economic Summit is undoubtedly Raina Vance, founder of Ariadna Global Group, the anchor declared. The screen showed Raina on the stage in Aspen, poised and radiant, the world at her feet. Donovan lifted his gaze from the cloudy broth and stared at the screen. For a long moment, he did not breathe. This should have been our stage, he thought wildly. Our company. Our life. One leg, a broken name, a stack of dirty dishes behind him. That was all he had left. The bowl slipped from his fingers and shattered against the wall, sending soup down the cracked plaster. "Have you lost your mind?" the owner shouted, hurrying over. "Get out of here." Donovan stumbled into the wet street, the door slamming behind him. He slid down the alley wall until the cold water soaked his clothes and curled around his one remaining ankle. Somewhere far away, applause still thundered for Raina Vance. He pressed his hands over his ears, but he could not block out the sound in his head. The echo of her heels on marble, the calm words that had ended his reign, and the quiet sentence she had spoken 1 year earlier when she walked away. "You are fired." If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.